got another beautiful day here at the scrap yard, and man, after 4 days of nothing but rain, we're finally glad to see a couple days of sunshine. The other day I made a video and showed you guys how we process and bale our aluminum items. So today I figured I'd show you the steel side of the yard and how we process the steel down here. So we are operating today, so it may be a little bit noisy. I'll try to explain everything as best I can as we walk around, but if we get to an area that's pretty noisy, I may just wait a second and get around the corner so I can explain it a little bit better. Also, like I said, we just had 4 days of straight rain, so it's a little bit of a mess and a little bit muddy, so just ignore that. So the first thing you'll notice down here is we have several different bays, sort of like we do on the aluminum side of the yard, and several different piles. Basically all those piles and the bays have different types of material in them, or it's similar material at a different stage of the process. But the first thing we do is obviously dump the material out when we receive it, and we basically have 4 areas in which we dump. The first 2 are over here next to this yellow machine. So the pile on the right is our appliances, and then everything to the left, like where he just threw that material, is our clean steel that'll get run through our shear. And then also we dump material right here on this concrete pad and sort through it with the magnet, which I'll show you a little bit closer in a second. And then the last place we dump is back there next to that mobile shear if we have some oversized stuff. So I'm not going to get too close over here to where he's working, but basically we dump material over here between these 2 machines, and then they sort through it and put it in its correct pile. So you can see he's pulling out a trailer axle, and that will go over to the mobile shear to be chopped up. And then back here at this green machine, he is sorting through our number 2 HMS, and HMS stands for heavy melting steel, and then all that gets run through our big shear, which I'll show you in a second when we get back over to that side. And over here, he's sorting out anything that doesn't need to go in our appliance pile. Like that was a piece of cast iron he just pulled out. He'll pull out any clean steel from this side and move it over to this side. These 2 trains work together, so they will both sort, but he'll feed material from this side of the yard over here to him for him to run through the shear. They're getting ready to switch what they're running through the shear because we're running pretty low on number 2. We pretty much already run all that material, and he's going to switch to that big pile of bushling in the back, which I'll show you that a little closer in a second as well. And then also we receive cars over here, so all the cars will be completely drained, and then they'll use that same machine to strip the vehicles. So they'll pull the motors, transmissions, wiring harnesses, aluminum wheels, etc. And then we just flatten them out with the machine and send them to the shredder with the appliances. And then stuff we get like this truck frame or those steel beams on top of it, they'll move this material over to the mobile shear because it's much easier to process it with that than through the big shear, because he can cut stuff off like the rubber tires that the big shear won't be able to cut off. And then after we cut up the material, we're loading it into dump trailers like you see right here, and then that material is headed straight to the steel mill. And so all the material you'll see down here, pretty much the majority of it goes directly to the steel mill to be melted down and recycled. The only thing that will go to another processor is that appliance pile and the car bodies. So over here where we dump mixed bins of prepared steel, normally there's a magnet over here. They have it down for some maintenance today, but he'll use the magnet to sort through different types of material like you see right here on the ground, and then he'll put it in its corresponding bay. So this bay we're looking at is our mixed cast iron bay, and then this one is our auto cast bay. So this bay is just cast iron brake drums and rotors. We do quite a bit more of this material than we do of the mixed cast, but that's basically where all of our cast iron goes. A little bit of it will get in our HMS just because it's too hard to sort by hand. And then this bay in the middle is another bay of the number 2 HMS, and that material also goes straight to the steel mill. It's similar to like what we're running through the big shear over there, but we have another bay set up over here, so as they sort through with the magnet, he doesn't have to take it back across the yard. He can just put it right there in that bay and then load it on a truck. This bay here is our number 1 HMS, or heavy melting steel. This is a lot more dense than the number 2. This is all material that's at least a 1/4 inch thick or thicker. This brings a little bit better price at the steel mill because it's more dense and thicker material. The other thing you'll notice is we have these little dumpster bins kind of scattered around the yard. And so as material comes in and the guys sort it, if there's a piece of non-ferrous like aluminum or copper or brass, they'll throw it into one of these bins. So you can see there's an aluminum piece in there. It doesn't make sense for them to take a machine and take that piece of aluminum all the way up there to the other side of the yard. So they'll just throw pieces into each of these bins, and then when the entire bin is full, they'll take it up there to be resorted. The last place that we dump material is right over here next to this mobile shear. And it'll be loads like this, which is thick, oversized material that needs to be sorted through. And then he'll chop it down with that machine into prepared sizes. So I mentioned busheling earlier that we run through the shear. This is our prepared busheling pile. All of this material is basically made up of brand new steel from manufacturers and machine shops. They cut out their parts or pieces that they need, and then they're left with a big sheet of steel that comes to us. We process it, and then it goes straight back to the steel mills as well. And then this pile right here in the middle is all unprepared #1 HMS or plate and structural. And then he'll take that mobile shear and chop it up into small pieces. And then once it's down into small pieces, they'll bring the magnet over, sort through it, and put it in its correct pile. I know it's a little bit noisy over here, so I apologize for that. And then anything that he can't cut with the mobile shear, like some of these big truck axles you see in here, he'll cut the truck frames off of them, and then he'll set those axles over to the torch pile. Let me walk around there and show you that. So now we're on the other side of the mobile shear. You can see a lot of this material in this big bay is our plate and structural. This is stuff that he's already cut up and it's ready to go to the steel mill. But like I said, if it's too thick for him to cut up, we'll use the torch. And then over here in this corner is where we do all of our torching. So if the material is either too thick or may cause damage to the shear blades, we'll send it over here and just cut it with a torch. So you can see stuff like these cutting edges, we probably could actually cut with the shear, but because they're such hard steel, they'll damage the blades. And then there's stuff like these counterweights off of forklifts, which I recently made another video showing how we process forklifts completely. And so you can see it's pretty much all different types of stuff. Right there's a forklift that's pretty much already been cut up. And so now we're back on the far side from where we started. You can see the yellow machine over there next to the stack of cars, which he's getting ready to load that high side trailer. And then this is the shear that processes all of our steel. You can see it's basically just a guillotine blade. It pushes the material out. Depending on how you have it set, anywhere from about 1 foot up to about 3 feet. And then the blade comes down, chops the material. And since it's pre-sorted, after it comes out of that machine, it's ready to go to the steel mill. And then this big pile we have right here, which is what we're getting ready to run through the shear next, is the busheling scrap. Like I said earlier, this is all derived from manufacturers or fabrication or machine shops. And this material is one of the more primary grades of steel in terms of it brings a higher premium than what we call obsolete scrap, which is like this #2 steel, which is like sheet metal, rebar, all sorts of old scrap steel you can think of that's still clean, doesn't have insulation and rubber and trash like appliances and car bodies do. Well, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to show you guys how we process our steel. Again, I apologize for the background noise. I tried to record this video the other day after hours, and when I went back and watched it, it just seemed way too boring with none of the machines actually working. Also, keep in mind, scrap yards call things different names and process materials in different ways. So if your local yard does it different than us, that's probably why. As always, I really appreciate you guys watching. If you have any questions or comments, make sure you leave them below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Thanks.